Your Humanities Half Hour is brought to you by the Northern Marianas Humanities Council, navigating the human experience together.
Hapade, Tiro, and welcome to Your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry, and today we are speaking with a cultural practitioner in various aspects of the indigenous Chamorro culture of the Marianas. He's a little bit versed in seafaring, traditional seafaring, Yupaktu, which is the sling used by the ancient Chamorros, and also how that ties into contemporary arts today. It's my pleasure to have on our show today Vicente Camacho Borja. Vicente, buenas.
Buenas, Catherine.
Thanks for making time on this busy day for you, I know, to come and share a little bit about your story. I understand that you actually come from a family that is quite known for having a lot of traditional knowledge, starting with your mom.
Yes, actually my mom was a housewife, and she does everything at home, and she can weave, she cooks, she's also Suruana. She knows all the medicinal plant. I remember following her picking plants, and I remember picking those Suruana plants or the medicinal herbs. You don't pick it after 5 p.m. And I remember her bringing it home, grinding it, and then I remember it depends. She mainly specialized in women and children, especially children with infection on the mouth or infection of the ears. She's able to heal them, and she'll mix all of that. And for some reason, when she does that, always the next day, the patient will come back and say, "Oh, my child is good." So she did that, and she's also my mom also was a weaver. She weaves Rosalind beads and makes it into coasters, basket.
The little gray beads.
Yes. And she also weaves with pandana. She makes purses. She makes pouches. She even makes like a cigarette case, lighter. So she's a really good weaver. She also sims, like she does the simstrings.
Okay.
She plays music.
Wow.
And she's also horticulture.
Quite
she
talented.
Plants, and all her plants, everything here that we have around on the island, she'll plant it, and then she plants so much that I will put it all together, and then we'll have to go down to Sablo Market and do a little sale because there's just so much. And it all started out with my mom. My dad is just ordinary working class. He just sits back and supports us. And I remember seeing all of these things, taking care of animals, but I never really got into Yupaktu or weaving or seafaring at that time when I was in Saipan. It was then when I left Saipan in 2008, and when I went to Guam, and I stayed there for 15 years, I met up with some cultural practitioners there. A couple of them are activists, but they're good people, and they're the one that showed me, first thing that they introduced me was seafaring. So I participated with TASA, Traditional Affirming Seafaring Ancestry, for 10 years. I managed to learn saw all the build up of a 32-footer canoe called Finagazan. That one had a voyage to Guam to Saipan a couple times with Master Palu Antonio Pelug, and I managed. He took a trip to Saipan, and I followed them for 10 years, and then in 2016, I managed to sail on the Finagazan again, from Guam to Rhoda, 2.5 days, Rhoda to Saipan on Finagazan. And that was only one way, but that was a very big experience. And then when I returned back to Guam, Guelu, Vicente Rizal from Rhoda, brought up the idea of Yupaktu and Atsu Atupak. and I followed Guelu, and then he introduced it to Roman de la Cruz, our friend that owns the Fakai shop in Guam. And Roman went deep and did a research on sling. And I would just follow them, and we sling. We actually even form called Otsu Marianas, and every Wednesday we'll meet up, and we do slingstones and stories. We'll sling, then after we sling, every Wednesdays for a couple of hours, we'll bring food and snacks, and we have this place in Guam called Sagan Couture and Chamorro. It's in Tomun, and we designated one place there. We had a little fence, and we meet there every Wednesday. So from there on, 8 years ago till today, I continue to practice it. May 2023 of last year, one day I just decided I want to move back to Saipan. I want to provide all the services that I've been doing in Guam, and I wanted to also bring in what I've learned in Guam as far as the seafaring and the Yupaktu. And now I'm going into the school system. I'm working with Miss Candice Muñe, and she's a very intelligent, very good teacher. And she was the one actually that brought me into Kakman High School to share about Otsu Tupac and Yupaktu. And from there, we did one in November of last year. And then recently we did one in March of this year. And thanks to Humanities Council for their generosity, I did a 3-day clinic. And what we do is we talk about the history and where it came from, the parts of the sling, and the form and technique, and how to set up the projectile and how to release the projectile. And so today we wanted to introduce it, and hopefully we'll turn it into a sports, make it fun for the kids.
That's the tie between history and contemporary that
Absolutely.
you like to make.
Yes.
For those that may not be familiar, what do we know about the slingstone from the history books?
Well, I do understand a little bit that it's been around for over 2,000 years ago. It's been around, and it's actually all over the world. One of the biggest place that they actually held it as a yearly event is Mallorca, Spain. In Mallorca, Spain, there are about 30 countries, and they have a sling competition. And it's a big deal for them. Roman and Vicente Camacho went there about a couple times. I believe in 2017 and 2016 and 17 they went, and actually they won a champion there. And now out of the 30 countries that is placed on their flyers, just for their participation, Roman and Guelu managed to acclaim Guam flag now on the map of that 30 countries. So our goal is, honestly, for Sinamay is to hopefully one day, well actually there is a tournament going on this year, October 2024, in Mallorca, Spain, and we're working on one of the local young guy here in Saipan to hopefully participate and have him experience over there, and hopefully we can also put our flag up there. But yeah, it's been around for over 2,000 years ago, and 500 years ago there was a documentary about sling here in the Sinamay.
What did they say?
Well, there was a carving of, I forgot the guy's name, but I know his last name is Faubre. He carved that slingstone were actually were practiced in the Sinamay, and these kids, they're the manotsang. They're the manotsang. We got the manotsang, you got the ulitao, and then you got the matua. It's the manotsang, the lower clan, is the one that goes out and carves the otsu, and they also makes the sling, and they will play around. They'll play slinging, shooting objects, and they become very accurate at it. So that was a documentation back then in the Sinamay. So I guess the way I feel about it, it is part of our culture. It became part of our culture. It became part of our tradition. And back then they were using it. Back then the Chamorros were using it, slinging to the Spanish, and also they were using it as a weapon, like birds and maybe smaller animals.
Hunting.
Hunting.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
What do you know about the slingstones and what they're made of, or how they were made, based on history or people trying to recreate it? What were the slingstones traditionally made of?
Well, there's different types of stones that they come up. Some of them are pink corals. Some of them are limestone.
Is that a pink coral there?
I believe this is a pink coral.
Wow.
Coral.
It's
and limestone, and even like some. I know there's a couple other ones.
I want to say basalt, but
yes,
could be wrong.
it's like it's something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And what they do is they have this. I don't really know exactly how they make it, but I know that they have this rock that they take another rock and they usually just grind it to another rock, and they just keep grinding it. And sometimes I heard, and my understanding, sometimes it takes hours to get it aligned, sometimes even to perfect it, sometimes even days. So to make one, it takes hours and hours, and probably even, so it depends what kind of rock it is, probably how hard it is, but mostly it's usually limestone, lava rocks, and usually those it's usually a stones that is really hard. So and by the way, it shapes like a football, and then when this projectile when they sling it and it flies, it rotates and it goes. So if you're pushing 40 miles an hour, putting it on a sling, it doubles it. So it's actually going between 80 to 90 miles an hour. And then with the shape, it's an aerodynamic, it goes fast, and then the pointy part will penetrate, and whatever it penetrates, a couple of times the penetration through the sharp part would definitely cause a lot of damage to, to the object that they're trying to hit.
I know. I mean, it's really a little bit scary, actually, when you think about it. And then you have the Yupaktu, which is the sling. Now, obviously, there's no remains left of any slings that were made by the ancient Chamorros, but does the literature refer to these slings at all, or what the Spanish would have written? What do we know about it?
Absolutely. The traditional Yupaktu was made out of traditional fibers. For example, pandana. They have a pandana leaves. They also have this pagu that we have there. Pagu is, we call it a hibiscus tree. Okay. It's they skin it, and then there's a process. And then there's also punyut, where the coconut husk, where they gather the husk and the punyut, and then they
make like a rope.
Yeah. And then they also use I forgot what's the other fiber, but it's still within the coconut. It's like a fiber that wraps around the coconut. They also use that. So back then, that's what they're using. Pagu actually is really strong. Pandana is really strong. The only thing right now is that with those traditional, it works just as perfect. The only thing is when it gets moist, or as time progresses, it kind of brittles a little bit, and it breaks, and then you have to make a new one. So now the modern sling that we use now is we use paracord, and it works just as good, just as accurate, and just as effective. As a matter of fact, the modern tools, the modern materials right now, this one is waterproof, it's strong, it's durable, and you can actually, keep this you can sling a lot of rocks out of this. So paracord, and this particular sling, I honestly, I was looking around for weavers, and I had to figure it out, but I actually weave it myself after all. So
I was going to say, where did you get the design to make what you've made here?
It all began in YouTube, where I was just trying to get the 4-strand and the 2-strand, trying to understand it and try to weave it. So what I did is, usually you do it on a freehand, where you do these 4 lines, and then you got a really long line, and you have to kind of go in between. But I found it very inconvenient. So what I did is I made myself a board, and then I shaped like a shape of an otsu.
Okay.
And then on the shape of the otsu, I put 1 nail there. I put 4 nails, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I just rotate like that, and then I start up first from the short one, and then the long one, and then I just weave my way in. So I start out with 2 strands, like 4, maybe 4 of them, and then when I come up here, then I do the 6 strand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then when I I guess it just takes practice. As you come along here, you just have to estimate, you have to kind of count how many left here, so you want to make it shape into a shape of an otsu. Sometimes it doesn't really come out the way you wanted it, but now I found a pattern that you can, it always comes out the same, but it depends too it takes practice, and then your finger and the way you feel the weaving is you really have to kind of, go deep in there and really look at it, because I learned in weaving that the rope itself, if you have too many knots, it's not gonna look good, or it's gonna kind of throw off the pattern. So you have to understand the twists and the turn, but you develop that as I guess naturally we develop these forms that we're trying to picture in what we're trying to do, to make it come out the way, I guess it's like painters or like ceramic, where you do certain fire and stuff like that, and then it depends how it comes out. Weaving is kind of like that, but I think weaving, once you master it, it always comes out consistently. I believe that's how it works, because so far, this is now the shape. I think this is the most perfect shape that I can come up with. And
how long have you been weaving the Yupaktu?
Yupaktu, believe it or not, I was trying to recruit weavers, but I gave up. And I just learned it in 2 weeks.
And how long have you been making them?
I've been making it for the past maybe 3 weeks, and it started me out.
You just started making this 3 weeks ago?
Yes, and it took me 2 hours the first time. Now it only takes me 20 minutes. So I don't know what it is.
What made you want to start weaving your own sling?
The reason why I want, because I've been going to showing slings and sharing my stories with slings to the kids at Kagman High School, and every session 200 kids.
Yeah.
All of them want slings.
Yeah.
The next session's under 200 slings, and I was like, how am I gonna supply these kids? I need a weaver. Well, I had to go and learn how to weave myself. So now I know how to weave. So what I'm doing now, in order for me to supply these kids, it's now what I'm also doing. Not only that I'm teaching them the history, the format, the technique about slings, but now I want to honestly just show them how to weave it, so they can weave their own sling and show their friends, so everybody and their friends in the neighborhood can have. So that's the only way for me to really reach out to all of these kids that want a sling, and if they want, give me your paracord, I'll sling it for you, I'll weave it for you for free so you can have it. But really what it is once I teach them, it's really basic. It's not hard to weave.
Question.
Yes.
Did you feel any sense of connection to your ancestors while you were trying to figure this out?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I believe that me doing this and me showing the kids how to weave, I get a little bit emotional, but it's a connection with my mom. My mom is a very giving lady. I want to give to the kids.
I can see that.
I want to show them. Have it. That's all.
Well, you're doing her proud with the work that you're doing. I'm sure she would be proud of you.
Thank you.
Learning your culture and then sharing it with the next generation. It's very powerful.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Everything I do now is especially introducing the culture. Without my mom, I wouldn't know this. I never knew that I was going to be in seafaring. And one of the master navigator told me, Vicente, be careful, because those spirits out there, they love you. They want you. And then he joked back and he said, if they really take you, please protect us out there. I wasn't scared. Seafaring is dangerous. You're going to the no man's land. And once this seafarer told me, if you reach land, you're blessed. It's infinite. It's amazing. It's overwhelming feeling. It's dangerous. But I don't know what it is. the deeper, the stronger the wind, the stronger the current, the more I want. It's just so strong. The spirit there is so strong. But I listen to the Palu. So what I do is every time I go out there, I always ask him, even if it's not around, I'll call him, Palu Larry, Palu Ton, can I go sell with, Isaiah or whoever's around? He says, okay. Once he says yes, I always have to ask permission, then I go. So far, I'm still here. I'm not lost yet in the water, so I'm still here. So I'm going to continue to do that. So I figured, now going back to Yupaktu, it's all because of my mom. Without my mom, I wouldn't probably know anything about this or even have the interest. And I think it's her spirit that is still there around me. And I'm so close to my mom that I guess just naturally, I want to do something in memory of her. And by doing this, it brings me connection with her somewhere, somehow. And the most important thing is connecting to these kids. I asked the children, 200s, over thousands of them, all through my, my experiences. Have you ever heard of Sling? Do you know about Sling? A lot of them says no. They don't know. They never heard. They never seen. I'm so happy to be there to share that, because there might be just a little bit of information, but at least they learn something. That wow, one day when they see this, it's nothing new for them. They know, they've heard. Sling is a tradition and culture, and this is what I tell the kids. It teaches you how to be respectful. It teaches you how about safety. It teaches you how about discipline. It teaches you about accuracy. And it teaches you about form and technique on your body mechanics, so you don't harm your body. You have to stretch before you sling. Just like anything you do, you have to stretch. So yes, it might not pay your bills, or it might not, but one thing that I tell them is, remember that learning to be disciplined and safety and respect, you take that out of your life. And if you respect your mom and your elderly, you are disciplined, you're accurate in what you do, and you're aware of your safety around you, you're respectful, there you go. I don't think you never go wrong being in that. So at least with the sling, you have it all here in this little piece of, I guess, equipment or gear that they call it. But one thing for sure, this is our traditional culture. Never forget where you came from. Always remember your traditional culture. And never forget where you came from. Doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what country. Go ask your elderly, your fathers and your mothers about your ancestors. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I think our ancestors are one of the most intelligent people in this planet Earth. It's interesting. It's amazing how they figured this thing out. So that's why I'm very passionate about this, and I want to share this knowledge, and I want to share it with the kids, because it's just so many bad news out there. It's just, I'm going to try. I'm going to do what I can to share what I can. So my target is to work with the grade school kids. I love those 6, 7, and 8 graders. They're very curious. They just want to absorb. 10, 11, 12, they're good, they're great, but they're kind of a little bit busy, but you know what, still, they're great. I like them too, but I'm beginning to favor those 6, 7, and 8 because they pay attention, they just want to play, they just want to learn. They want to learn. Yeah. And so that's actually also what drives me,
What's the response you're getting from the kids that you teach about this?
Well, believe it or not, Candice she's just so smart. What we did is, first day of clinic, we talk about the history, we talk about the form and techniques, okay? And then we go out there and we do air shots and do that. The next day, we make the kids sign a evaluation form. What do you think about it? So what we did is we did an evaluation form, and then we challenged these kids. Okay, we put them in groups, create you're in your own sense, create what kind of games you can play with, play with the
Ooh,
with
I like
the sling.
that. Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Of course, in the evaluation, they love it. It's high rating. They want to do it again. As a matter of fact, I only do it one time, and then they were saying like, Miss Munya, when we're gonna have the sling? So I'm thinking, you know what? This is not a one-day thing. I need to go back there and volunteer and give back to the kids. And I need to go to the schools, at least the school that I went to, at least once a month, and have the kids sling, so we can have that, continuance. And then the other day is like so we did the evaluation, and then the idea of creating games. Some kids goes, okay, how about putting a wall and put a hole, pick a big hole, the bigger hole, smaller points, the smaller hole, higher points.
I like that.
And then the other one was, what about putting 3 bottles, plastic bottle, stack them up, and you try to hit it. And then the other one is, what about putting a board and then put a circular mark in the middle, and then the middle is 2 points, and then the board is 1 point, and that's at 60 to 80 yards. And then some of them goes, what about paintball? I go, yeah, we can do that probably, but maybe with tennis balls. And we did that actually in Guam. It was pretty fun. And then some of them is like, what about moving target? Okay, so we'll put a board like this, one guy on behind, and we'll be walking left to right, and these 5 guys will try to keep slinging and try to deflect.
That sounds scary.
I'm using tennis balls, of course. But man, these kids just came out with all kinds of idea, and it's like, okay, wow, that's great. So we really engage with them, and the result actually came really well. And they've been actually, we did a statistic on a chartboard, and a lot of them voted that, if they can bring it back some more. So as long as I'm here already in Saipan, so I'll be out there. I'm reaching out mostly on the public school system, private schools.
I think everybody can appreciate how you're trying to tie the traditional culture with the world today and what kids are interested in, which is so interesting. I want to thank you for coming in and sharing with us today, and give you time for any final thoughts that you may have that I didn't ask about, or anything else you'd like to say.
Well, I'd like to thank you for bringing me on this Flame Tree interview, and sharing it to the to the public. And one thing is just really whatever it is. It could be sling, it could be cooking, it could be weaving, it could be seafaring, it could be dancing. Whatever it is, I figured that I cannot do everything. My mom weaves and sings and plays music and cook and all that stuff. I figured, I'm only going to choose 1 or 2. And the first thing that I chose was seafaring. And I just stay with that. And I'm happy with that. But then, learn about your culture. Especially the children and parents. Tell your kids about the culture, about the tradition. It's very important. It's very interesting, I'm also, my real job is I transport, I'm a wheelchair transporter and a basic life support transporter. And every time I get these elderly patients, and I talk to them and I ask them, how old are you? Some of them are like in the 90s and the 80s. I always ask them, how was it when you were 16 years old? And they just come up with some really cool, interesting stories. So that's what I do. I ask these elderly people, like, how was it back then? Or, what did you do? And so I hope the parents and hopefully, especially, the parents will talk to their kids, and hopefully those children out there, or the kids, if you guys have any question, ask your elderly, ask your auntie, uncle, your parents, about your history and where you came from. It's very interesting. I never realized how interesting it is back when I was growing up, of course. And now that it's what happened, and now that I'm 58 years old, I'm just so passionate now about our tradition, our culture. I don't know what it is, but I wish I would have done this, way earlier. But it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
This was the time.
It's never too late. This is the time. So that's all.
Thank you so much. And thank you for teaching me the words Yupaktu. Did I say it correct?
Yes, Yupaktu is the
Yupaktu,
sling.
and Atsu Atupak.
Atsu Atupak is the slingstone. Yes.
Hopefully I'll remember them.
Thank you, Catherine.
And good luck on all your endeavors with the kids.
Yes, we do.
Our guest today has been Vicente Camacho Borja, sharing about his passion for indigenous Chamorro culture, especially seafaring and the traditional sling and slingstone. This has been your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry.
Your Humanities Half Hour has been made possible in part by a major grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities. Democracy demands wisdom. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities. For more information or to share your thoughts, contact the Northern Marianas Humanities Council at nmhcouncil.org or on social media at 670 Humanities. That's 670 Humanities.